So in the world of MMA, you'd be hard-pressed to find two names with more grit, more icon status than the Diaz brothers, right? But lately, the internet's been blowing up with these rumors, a serious falling out between Nick and Nate. So what's the real story here? Let's try and separate the facts from all the fiction.
I mean, that's the big question, isn't it? Are these guys, MMA's most famous brothers, actually at war? For years, they've been this unbreakable unit, a two-man army against the whole world. So what on earth could drive a wedge between them? Let's dig in and figure out where this whole story even came from. Well, surprise, surprise. Like a lot of drama these days, this whole thing kicked off with a single post online. And man, it laid out a very specific and honestly, a pretty damaging story. So this post came from an Instagram account called Perry Punch, and it made two huge claims. First, that Nick was upset because he felt like Nate didn't step in to help him sooner with a rehab stay. And second, while Nick was gone, Nate supposedly rebranded Nick's gym as the Nate Diaz Academy. I mean, you can see why this took off, right? It sounds like this classic, dramatic story of betrayal, and of course, it just spread like wildfire online.
But here's where the story takes a turn. Almost as fast as those rumors started to spread, the people who are actually in their inner circle, we're talking teammates, coaches, they stepped up to shut the whole thing down.
So you gotta wonder, was there any truth to all this online chatter? Well, let's just say the response from their crew was immediate and pretty decisive. First up to bat was their longtime teammate, Jake Shields, and he did not mince words. He just came right out and said, "Why are you making up bullshit? I was with Nick yesterday and talked to Nate today." I mean, you can't get much more direct than that, right? Coming from a guy who's been in their corner for years, that's a pretty powerful shutdown.
Then their strength and conditioning coach, Jose Garcia, he chimed in with a bit more of a detailed take. He basically said, look, Nate is not beefing with Nick, but he also gave us a more realistic picture. He explained that these are two adult brothers. They fight, they disagree, but at the end of the day, Nate respects whatever Nick decides to do with his life.
And that one line from Garcia, what Nick does is on Nick. That's really the whole key to this thing. It unlocks what's actually going on. This isn't really about a big, dramatic feud. It's about something much simpler, autonomy.
So what we're left with are these two completely different stories. You've got the rumor mill online pushing this idea of a bitter, nasty feud over business and personal choices. And then you have the reality, at least according to their inner circle, which is, well, it's just two brothers who might disagree sometimes, but ultimately respect each other's independence.
Yeah, the big takeaway here, according to their coach, is that Nate is just focused on his own family, his own household first. It's not some story about abandonment. It's really about acknowledging that they're two separate people now, two adults. And Nate respects Nick's right to do what he wants, whatever that might be.
All right, so it seems like the family feud is pretty much fiction. But there's another fight, a very real debate that's raging around Nate Diaz. And this one has nothing to do with his brother. It's all about his legacy in the sport.
16-12. That's it. That's Nate Diaz's official UFC record. And that single number is at the very center of a huge debate. Because depending on who you talk to, those numbers tell a completely different story about his career. And one person with a very strong opinion on this is former fighter Ben Askren. He basically says, I don't even think he's that good. Askren argues that Nate's a master of perception. He's convinced everyone he's this amazing fighter, but his massive fan base doesn't really match up with his actual performance.
So Askren's argument is pretty simple when you break it down. He looks at that record, 21-13 overall, 16-12 in the UFC, and he just sees average. He thinks Nate is more of a cult icon than a truly elite fighter, that his popularity has just completely outgrown his actual skill and achievements in the cage. And all of this really leaves us with a pretty fascinating question, one that gets to the heart of what we value in sports. For a fighter, what matters more? Is it the raw numbers on their record, or is it their impact, the unforgettable moments, the way they change the culture of the sport? When it comes to Nate Diaz, man, the answer is anything but simple. It's really up to you to decide.